And we are going to welcome here Mrs. Roberta Gagliardi from Deputy Secretary of Confartigianato Lombardia. Good morning, Mrs. Gagliardi.
Good morning, Sheila, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for introducing me. For me, it's an honor in this international forum to give way to this agenda, and I'd like to thank Confartigianato Lombardia and the Partnership Project for this opportunity. Today, with this event, we would like to face the importance now more than ever to empower the network between micro and small and medium and micro enterprises, associations and universities. And it's important to highlight that this event is dedicated to a project financed by European framework and able to promote this kind of project. As Confartigianato Lombardia, which is one of the most representative organizations of SMEs and craft businesses, we have always supported the importance of promoting innovative manufacturing together with craftsmanship. This in the awareness that today, being an artisan enterprise and small medium enterprise means having a close connection with the market, with the world of the research, enhancing the technological and incremental innovation closer to the market. We think this is the best approach to turn an entrepreneurial project into effective growth in terms of competitiveness. And we are further convinced that in a scenario that will increasingly be characterized by radical change in the manufacturing sector, but not only, it's important to support the construction of innovation ecosystem capable of making the most of the entire economy and productive system, promoting the technology conversation process. In this way, we will be able to boost the transfer of knowledge from the research centers and universities, not only to large companies, but also to small and medium companies that we know are the backbone of the Italian economy. And since this transfer to these businesses has always been the weak link in the process, boosting it is the right path to pursue. And in this path, the construction of the strategic partnership able to involve all the actors of the local innovation system, it's relevant for the development of entrepreneurial competence and growth. And today, we are going to introduce some best practices to highlight how associations and universities play an increasingly relevant role in the process, innovation process of the micro, small, and medium enterprises. To close, I thank you for your attention. I apologize for my English, and I just wish you have a nice event.
Thank you very much, Dottoressa Galbiati. Your English is very good. You explained very well. We understand everything very clearly. Thank you very much. Next speaker is Mr. Enzo Galbiati. He is the Director of the Managing Authority of the Cooperation Program Italy-Switzerland. Mr. Galbiati, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much for the invitation to this important meeting. I'm Enzo Galbiati, Managing Authority of Interreg Italy-Switzerland program. I was asked to speak briefly about the program Italy-Switzerland. In my short speech, I will focus only on the initiatives of the program that have involved companies in the cooperation area, which, as you are certainly aware, include the Italian regions, in the northern part of Italy, of Lombardy, Piedmont, Valle d'Aosta, and Bolzano. While for Switzerland, they include the cantons of Valais, Vallese, Ticino, and Grisons. The 2014-2020 cooperation program, Italy-Switzerland, is designed to match the aims of the two greater frameworks, the 2020 Europe strategy and the Swiss new regional politics, starting from the needs shared by the two border sides. The program focus is to come to a change in the cooperation area in terms of competitiveness and strengthening to the social and economic cohesion. The program strategy is declined into 5 axes, and each axis is designed to grant, by the collaboration of the two border sides actors, an added value to the two countries. Particularly, axis 1, the framework of PMI network project is involved, is aimed to enterprises' competitiveness by developing and achieving new activity models for SMEs, especially for internationalization. Expecting the results are the increase of cross-border collaboration between enterprises, including their delegations, research centers, and public bodies, aiming to integrate and modernize the area economic system and to strengthen its competitiveness by new products and new processes. For Axis 1, the Italian public funding is around 90 million euros, and the Swiss public funding is around 5.3 million Swiss francs. The total of private and public contribution is around 31.6 million euros, the 20% of the cooperation program total budget. The first call for projects of the cooperation program financed 21 projects under Axis 1, and particularly 12 projects include system action as PMI network project does. A total under Axis 1 of 130 beneficiaries were involved and financed, of which 82 Italian and 48 Swiss, of which 31 SMEs operating in the following fields of activities: ICT, creative and cultural industries, vocational and educational training, tourist and biomedical enterprises, and finally, agrobusiness. This for the past. Now let's take a brief look at the future. The pandemic coronavirus flu has caused a serious crisis for SMEs. For this reason, we are going to open, within the end of this month, November, a new call for projects with the budget that was not spent in the previous two calls, through the new call actions that mitigate the effects caused by COVID-19 will be funded. The projects that were funded in the previous call can add a new module, but also brand new projects can be submitted. The call is designed to help enterprises. For this reason, University and Research Center will not to be will not be direct beneficiaries of these actions, but can participate as subcontractors. The total public funding for Axis 1 is around 8.3 million euros. Thank you for your attention. If you have any question, I can answer them later on, if it's possible, I don't know, or by email, if you want. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Galbiati, for your presentation. Now we have a representative from a university. Of course, one of the essential elements of any open innovation process is the presence of university or research center capable of stimulating the competitive growth of firms. I am pleased to present you next speakers, Professor Josip Kotlar. Professor Kotlar is Professor of the Strategy and Family Business at the School of Management of Politecnico di Milano. Benvenuto professore, la parola a lei.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your introduction. I hope you can hear me well and see the few slides that I have prepared for this speech. Well, first of all, I'm very pleased to be here and to present a little bit of an introduction to this session. And what I wanted to, what I chose as a topic was a little bit of an internal perspective. A perspective that focuses on family businesses and small and medium enterprises, which are the two research topics that I have addressed so far. If you look at the next slide, you will see the agenda where basically I will briefly introduce a few challenges that small and medium enterprises often face as they approach open innovation. And then I will try to move into some priorities, something that I call the strategic priorities, which I hope will inspire in a way the participants as to how to address the big challenges of open innovation in SMEs. In the next slide, please, you see a little bit of a summary of what we know from research. And here it's very interesting to see actually how many studies have explored, let's say, the innovation inputs, processes, and outputs in SMEs. And research seems to suggest some consistent findings that indicate that SMEs generally invest less in innovation. And this is the first finding that seems to be consistent all across the board and in many countries. But what does it mean, lower inputs for innovation? It largely means lower formal R&D investments. On the second part, you look at the innovation activities, and what research suggests is that well, SMEs do innovation differently compared to large multinationals. Definitely, they have a little bit more informal approach to innovation. For example, we found in a study that more successful SMEs organize their processes around part-time new product development teams, giving carefully the roles of project championship and project leadership, also bearing in mind the role of firm owners in that process. And a very big role is held by intrinsic incentives, not just monetary incentives for the inventors and the people who work in innovation. What we find in relation to innovation output is more puzzling, is more mixed, because we find that SMEs vary a lot in terms of how much they are able to generate innovative outputs. Some of them are little innovative, some of them are highly innovative. And so my interest often is in understanding how is it possible that an SME can invest less in innovation, but at the same time obtain a greater efficiency or a greater conversion of innovation input into innovation outputs and new products, services, or process innovations, and even firm performance. At the next slide, you find one possible explanation of this puzzle, which highlights the role of open innovation as a way for SMEs, on one hand, to acquire, to complement their internal sources of innovation with external ideas, external technologies, and any other input that can come from outside parties. Universities, other companies, larger and smaller companies. On the other hand, the very important aspect of leveraging internal ideas externally, which means not only developing everything inside the organization, but also partnering with other institutions and with other parties in order to make good use of the ideas and technologies generated within the company. So, as you can see, in my view, open innovation has a big role and can be a big leverage for SMEs to improve their innovativeness and competitive advantage. So, in my research and experience working with SMEs, I captured the three ongoing themes that I find to be very strategic and recurring as SMEs address open innovation challenges. In the next slide, please, you will find the first one, which relates to the cultural barriers. Let me explain a little bit more. In SMEs, firm owners, who also are very often also the top managers of the company, have two characteristics which are not common in the larger organizations. The first one is emotional attachment. Firm owners, SME owners, are highly emotionally attached to their company, rightly so. They have founded them very often, or they are companies that have been in the hands of the family for generations. So, in a way, this emotional attachment is one characterizing trait. The other one is power concentration. Power concentration means that firm decision makers are, basically very few. So very few people take a lot of decisions. And that can be an advantage and disadvantage as well. If you look at this and how it relates to open innovation, you find some paradoxes which might relate to the willingness of the company to acquire external knowledge and to collaborate with outsiders, and on the ability to do so, which means more the capability to really, create partnership agreements, to create collaborations. In a way, if you think about emotional attachment might actually, let's say, reduce the willingness to go outside the boundaries of the company and search for new ideas, because in some way we often hear the best ideas are those within the company. On the other hand, power concentration instead can allow the family firm or the SME really to be very quick in making decisions. So I think in a way, SMEs have to balance these two elements, the willingness on one hand and the ability on the other one, in order to access and develop open innovation. The second challenge in the next slide relates to the strategy. Very often I hear from SMEs very destructured thoughts about open innovation, and I think this can be a problem. It is very important for SMEs to be able to understand why, open innovation can add value to their company, and also define the scope of open innovation, which can be internal to the company, and looking at how to interact within different departments or different subsidiaries in the case of a little bit larger company. On the other hand, you need to think about how to extend the technological domain of the company, whether to go and search within existing technological domains, within the core competence of the company, or move broader and try to look at other organizations. So at a very high level, my encouragement often for SMEs is to think that open innovation can take many forms and can be more or less radical in a way, because sometimes very little projects, not going too far away from the boundaries of the organization, can still deliver very important benefits. Finally, in the next slide, you find the third strategic priority, in my view, which is to decide very consciously about where and how to collaborate in innovation. Here, two concepts that can be useful is basically the idea of research breadth, which means with how many different partners an SME collaborates. And on the other end, the research depth, which means how much in depth, how strong collaborations you want, an SME wants to develop with its partners. So you see on the right-hand side of the slide that any company can develop its own, oh, in the previous slide, sorry. On the right hand, you see that every company can think about multiple ways to collaborate with more than one collaborator, with more than one party, customers, suppliers, startups and individuals, companies, universities and institutions. So in a way, every SME can develop its own profile for collaboration. And my last message is really that a strategic approach, which means a conscious and a long-term look at open innovation, is definitely the key strategic priority for SMEs. At least this is what comes from research and from my little but humble and hopefully useful experience. So that's everything from my side. I'm very happy to join later for the Q&A session.
Thank you very much, Professor Kotlar from Politecnico di Milano. And now that we introduced the context and the point of view of associations, authorities, and research centers, we can focus on how different universities, science parks, and innovation hubs implemented actions to ease the cooperation with SMEs, and we will have 6 distinguished speakers with us, and they will share their opinion and their project with us. And the title of our roundtable will be Strategical Partnerships in Local Innovation Ecosystem as a catalyst for the development and competitive growth. I am starting to present our speakers now. We have Mr. Enzo Galbiati. He is the director of the Managing Authority of the Cooperation Program Italy-Switzerland. Mr. Galbiati, welcome.
No, I think that he was in the
Marco
previous
Tarabini.
panel. Yeah.
So sorry for that. I apologize. We have Mr. Marco Tarabini, Professor Tarabini from the Department of Mechanical Engineer, Head of Polyclinic Lecco Service. Is it right?
Yes, it's me. Thanks a lot.
Welcome again. We have Mr. Davide Riva, CEO of Scatolificio, Lariano, Vice President of Confartigianato Lecco. Mr. Riva, welcome. Mr. Riva, can you hear me? Mr. Davide Riva, can you hear me? I think Mr. Riva cannot hear us now. I am going to present the next speaker with us, Mr. Andrea Barni. He is a senior researcher, Department of Innovative Technologies, SUPSI.
Yes.
Mr. Barni,
For the invitation.
Thank you very much for being with us. And we have Mr. Simone degli Abbati, Quality Manager, Veragouth SA. Welcome, Mr. degli Abbati.
Thank you.
And we have Mr. Nicola Doppio, Innovation Officer, Hub Innovation, Trentino. Welcome, and thank you for being with us this morning. And we have Mr. Paolo Gregori, Director of Prototyping Mechatronics Facility, ProM at Trentino Sviluppo SPA. Mr. Gregori, welcome. We cannot hear you. Can you put the microphone on, please?
Is it?
Yes,
is on.
Now we can hear you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I will check with Mr. Davide Riva if he can hear us. Mr. Riva? Good morning, Mr. Riva. Can you hear us? Mr. Riva cannot hear us yet. We can start with Mr. Marco Tarabini. to our
Thanks a lot.
roundtable this morning. Mr.
Yes.
Tarabini.
Good morning.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, and thanks to Confartigianato for hosting us. In my presentation, I will try to show the initiatives of the technology transfer process that Politecnico is promoting with the association and institution in Northern Lombardy. Next slide, please. Politecnico di Milano is a scientific and technological university that trains engineers, architects, and industrial designers. The university always focused on the quality and of innovation of its teaching and research, developing relationships with businesses and productive world with means of experimental research and technology transfer. In Lecco campus, that you can see in the slide here, Politecnico di Milano is experimenting innovative actions specifically tailored on the necessities of manufacturing SMEs. In the next slide, you can see some number of the industrial district of Lecco. The district has approximately 5,000 companies, manufacturing companies out of about 27,000 businesses. The firms of mechanical district in Lecco since the 80s showed important elements of transformation and a great capability of innovations. The SMEs of the Lecco district proved to be more efficient compared to medium-sized firms in the same sector with higher profitability rates according to several literature studies. So in the next slide, since 2013, Politecnico is experimenting in Lecco different forms of open innovation, thanks to a unique collaboration between universities, firms, and associations. Next slide, please. To date, there are two main issues that still have to be addressed, in our opinion. The first one relies on the identification on the best conditions allowing a stable cooperation between SMEs and the university. And the second challenge is the identification of the best instrument, so basically something different from the standard research contract that allow university to collaborate with SMEs and associations. So next slide, please. First of all, I would like to introduce to you a couple of concepts that are the absorptive capacity and the proximity. Next slide, please. The starting point here is that companies must be in the right condition. Next slide, please. The company must be in the right condition to absorb knowledge from the innovation partner. So the crucial point is to understand the level of absorptive capacity of company. Absorptive capacity is the ability of the organization to recognize the value of external information or knowledge and to assimilate it in order to apply it as a new innovation process. In the scheme on the bottom of the slide, you can see the different level of absorptive capacity of firms that range from the simple awareness, so in which the company just knows the innovator, to the exchange of information, to the comprehension and assimilation of the innovation, towards the transformation of a concept into a new product or a new process for the company. Of course, here, the goal both for the university and for the companies to complete all these level of absorptive capacity. There is a cumulative quantity. So what's interesting is that if the company absorbed something in the past, is more ready to absorb something new in the future. The second concept is proximity. Next slide, please. Proximity is a quantity that tells us how the university and the company are close from different point of view. The literature showed that actors in proximity interact more easily, and different forms of proximity that you can see in this slide can influence the collaboration and the innovation, working better depending on the different interlocutors. There are different types of proximity, and each of them is important. The geographical proximity, for instance, is important for SMEs or company with low, let's say, R&D capability or low R&D level. If we focus, for instance, on organizational proximity, we all can understand that relationship might be very difficult if two companies have very different organizational models. The social proximity might help in absence of other kinds of proximity, while let's say the last one, that is the cognitive proximity, is the last one at which we need to aim in order to promote the highest level of innovation. Next slide, please. We try to use these two concepts in order to, let's say, promote an innovative project in the area of Lecco. Next slide, please. I cannot see the new one. I see. Okay, sorry, I jumped out a bit from the connection. So the previous one, yeah, this one. As an engineer, I cannot suggest to a company a specific path for innovation without knowing everything about the company itself. So the first step that we try to set up in the PMI Interreg project was a questionnaire. Next slide, please. The project PMI Network is carried on in cooperation with Confartigianato Lombardia, Confartigianato Lecco, SUPSI, and other associations. And we prepared a questionnaire with 52 questions that help us in the description of the company, the identification of the R&D capability, the organization, the management, the knowledge about the intellectual property, and so on. We are also suggesting to the entrepreneur to complete a psychological profiling test that helps us in understanding the level of cognitive proximity in which we are. Next slide, please. The main result that we are obtaining is a set of descriptive statistics about the company, so the comparison with other actors in the same technological area and the company's priorities for research and development. So the interaction starts with a kind of pull mechanism in which we try to understand what are the company needs in order to identify the absorptive capacity and the proximity dimension. Next slide, please. Of course, in addition to the pull mechanism, we are putting on some push mechanism that aims at letting companies know what we are doing. So in the next slide, please. In the last summer, we organized 12 tech talks, and that were followed by 300 companies that ended up with 44 new innovation checkup. This one ended in 3 collaboration with companies that we did not knew before starting our action. We also got some interesting information in the follow-up that we are doing. So, for instance, there is no correlation between the number of participants and the new contacts, and that in order to get decent result in technology transfer, we must focus on a uniform audience. Next slide, please. So the push mechanism helps us to understand what the company is looking for and at which level. So next slide, please. We basically need to understand if for the specific problem the company is looking for a graduated student, for instance, or for technical competencies, for networking with other companies, or contact with other entities, and so on. Next slide, please. We basically need to understand now we know the company, we know the need, we must find the right instrument that I'm showing it in the next slide. The result of the process is this kind of scheme in which we understand that the research contract is not the only way in which we can cooperate with companies. So depending on the willingness of the factory to involve students or not, we are proposing to SMEs different kind of collaboration that are ranging from the simple internship with the undergrad students to hackathon challenges, contexts, research contract, or even joint research centers. What we are understanding is that the traditional research research contract is not the best choice for collaborating with SMEs. So we defined in this scheme in which, depending on the topic level definition, on the technology readiness level of the solution that the company want to implement, and on the university engagement, you can even read it as money, we can identify the most promising technique of collaboration. Next slide, please. That is the concluding one. I'm closing the presentation with a couple of take-home messages. The first one is that the success of on the innovation process that might be open innovation or not does not depend on only on the level of technological knowledge of the partners. So the take-home messages is for me to focus on the increasing of the absorptive capacity and the proximity and the level of proximity between firms, small manufacturing SMEs and the technology transfer actors. And if the objective of the company are clear, we will reasonably be able to create an innovation ecosystem in which the trust and the awareness allow improving the capability and the quality of cooperation. So in the next slide, that is the last one, I'm just passing the speech to Dr. Riva from Scatolificio Italiano that I hope that he will support my thought in his presentation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Professor Tarabini. Now, as you said, we have the next speakers, Dr. Davide Riva. He's from Confartigianato Lecco, but he is also CEO of a company which is making the experimentation of a new way of collaboration with the university. He will share with us his experience about this. Welcome to our World Manufacturing Weekend, this session, Mr. Riva. Can you hear us? Maybe Mr. Riva has still problem with the connection with us. Mr. Riva, can you hear us? Maybe we have some problem. Can you hear us, Mr. Riva?
Thank you very much for the invitation, and good morning, everyone.
Good morning to you.
I'm Davide Riva. I'm the owner of Scatolificio Lariano. Yes?
Good morning, Mr. Riva.
Yes,
can you hear me now?
You can hear?
Yes, we can hear you very clearly. You can continue with your presentation. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Mr. Riva, and I'm the owner of Scatolificio Lariano. But just a little premise before starting. Considering that I have been studying English for a short time, then
Following the streaming, you can go by yourself.
Then, to avoid mistakes, I prefer to read my speech directly, which you can still follow with the slide. First slide, please. Scatolificio Lariano is a small artisan company that has been working since 1915 in Valmadrera, Lecco, in the field of corrugated cardboard packaging, ranging from the production of simple packaging to the most elaborate types of die cut. Thanks to our technicians' know-how, to continuous investment in training and technology, today we are able to satisfy the ever-growing needs of the market with extreme flexibility and total services. The company philosophy has been oriented towards continuous innovation and quality, and we have always focused on green and eco-sustainability attitude. Next slide, please. Since 2014, Scatolificio Lariano has created UNCA, unconventional cardboard design brand, a new branch that, from the corrugated cardboard original raw material, differentiated the product from the range of goods of the core business. UNCA, in collaboration with local designer, designs and creates fittings like exhibition and commercial spaces, furniture and complements, daily use items. Overall, these only in the recycled, recyclable, and reusable cardboard. We believe that the design today is the ability to create a functionally beauty, and we aim at making the ecologically suitable. Next, please. In UNCA business plan, we define the technological opportunities for further development of the new brand with the goal of developing new sectors and markets like outdoor, always keeping our green connotation. With this aim, in 2016, we had the first dialogue with the world of research that was unfortunately unsuccessful due to the following three reasons. Problems with understanding, communication, different languages, different perspectives, and different schedules. Proposal out of target. The economic commitment was very high, both in comparison with the planned activities and with regards to our investment power. Lack of an intermediation to support and guide the dialogue between SMEs and the world of research. Next, please. At the end of 2019, Confartigianato Imprese Lombardia proposed to us to deepen our technological needs through the PMI network project services. We had a preliminary meeting in-house with the Association Innovation Expert and with the professor of Politecnico di Milano. An initial feasibility study has been drawn with the steps and the scientific competence required to realize our project in the draw. Improve our eco-sustainable cardboard products and make them suitable and resistant even in outdoor place. At the same time, Confartigianato's project office has carried out a research on possible financial packages to take action. Next. In January 2012, we applied for the announcement Indoor Driver by the Lombardia region with the UNCA Eco-Outdoor project that has been awarded a financial package from the region. The support provided by PMI Network allowed to better clarify our real needs, define the issue to be investigated, identify the necessary scientific required, came to the final drawing of flexibility plan that identify research and innovation partner as a tailor-made, find out and attract financial packages that will support these next investments in research. Next. Thanks to further meetings with the professor of Politecnico University in cooperation with the innovation expert of the association, we defined the next steps and signed out first agreement with the university. Now we are ready to go. Which are our expectations? Work with Politecnico researchers with whom we had a first positive dialogue to identify the best solution for our project. Develop a new partnership with other companies in the supply chain, thanks to the network created by the project. At the same time, be supported by our association with increasing value-added services that help our company competitively grow. Next. What is going to happen? Are we going to find the solution we are looking for? Yes. So our company will enjoy a competitive advantage on the competitors, and we will be able to conquer new sectors and markets. Furthermore, thanks to the experience and the network of people we are sharing this pattern with, we will be able to consider a new innovation and grow project. No? So we will have had a new experience, relatively affordable, thanks to the free of charge of PMI network services and to the financial package of the region that allowed us to deepen the knowledge of a world that we have never directly met before. And if positive, we will be able to consider further collaboration on new projects. Next, thank for listening, and sorry for my pronunciation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Riva, and we are definitely go to crossing the border now, and we go to Switzerland. Professor Tarabini was mentioning before how important is the role of students for the process of technology transfer with SMEs, and we are now with the right person, Professor Andrea Barni from SUPSI. He will share with us his opinion about this topic. Thank you for being with us, Professor Barni.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. As a researcher at the Department of Innovative Technologies of the University of Applied Sciences of Southern Switzerland. And today my contribution would like to try to let you understand how Applied Science University is strongly built with the ground of its innovation ecosystem, and so how is already implementing some of the connection that has been presented by Marco from PMI Network, and how we are trying to boost them and ever grow the activities and the support that we can provide to companies in order to improve the innovation of our ecosystem. Next, please. SUPSI is 7 universities of applied sciences that are distributed across Switzerland, that has basically the mission to give teaching with a very practical orientation, and as well carry on research and development according with their practical specialization field. In this context, that the Department of Innovative Technologies, that is based near Lugano, here in the Trentino region, does this role by basically training young engineers, supporting professionals update of companies' technical staff, and supporting companies to apply research and technology transfer. Next, please. Just a couple of words about the area where we live. Ticino has around 40,000 companies, with the micro companies representing about 90% of the companies. So it's a very industrial ecosystem that is very similar to the one of the nearby Lombardy, of Lecco also. As I say, 90% micro companies, 8% of SMEs, so we arrive at the 99% of small companies, let's say. In particular, in Ticino, we have 3 specialization areas, smart specialization area that are the one related to life science, mechatronics, and fashion industry that are all, say, considered inside the PMI network project. Not only this one, but considered inside the PMI network project. Next, please. Ticino is a very small area, so let's say much smaller than Lombardy, but we can say that we have quite an important innovation background. Indeed, if we take a look to the innovation scoreboard, where Switzerland has been scored by several years by one of the first countries in terms of innovation capabilities. Also Ticino, even if a small area, it has quite an important track record on it, with an innovation scoreboard that is more on the average of the European value. Next, please. How we do it, basically, how we try to take this level of innovativeness high. First of all, as you can see on the left, we have Switzerland, and we have also the European vision. Basically, we have Switzerland is a nation that, fortunately, luckily, could have had stable political situations that, in the time, allowed the innovation potential to grow and grow ever and ever. On the other side, if we go on our regional area, we have, of course, the connection with the other expertise that are present in Switzerland. So basically, we try to complement our expertise and our activities together with the different innovation parks present in the other part of Switzerland. But as you can see on the right part of the slide, we have a very strong and networked innovation ecosystem composed by several actors that are taken together and orchestrated by some of the let's say institutions that support inside the Cantone Ticino and also in the innovation stakeholders support the orchestration of these activities. Next, please. The Department of Innovative Technologies, one of the department of SUPSI, has a leading role in this activity. Here, just a slide to show some of the companies we collaborate with, but just to understand the volume of activities, we work yearly on like 150 ongoing projects with 70 millions of research volume for a department that has like 250 employees, so not that many people for a let me say that big research activity. Next, please. So what I would like to discuss with you very briefly how we manage the development of these innovation pathways, leveraging on the integration basically of the applied research in all our way of doing work and activities we provide. Next, please. First of all, we work, of course, at training level. So we have a very deep integration, training bachelor and master students with practical, market-driven innovation approach. Related to this, we also provide professionals the means to address the challenges of ever-changing working life. So basically, we work professional to professionals. This is important to maintain updated the people during their lifetime. Leveraging on our researchers that have a very deep territorial connection, we also integrate European recognized activities in order to build up our expertise. More than that, we also, let's say, try as much as possible to exploit the innovation financing system that in Switzerland is very based on, is very knowledge based. So basically, companies don't get financing, basically in the Swiss framework, but is financed the university that provides the research. So it's very important the commitment of the companies in the research activity. So understand how this necessitates some connection among the two worlds. Next, please. Leveraging on these activities, where we arrive to training programs for the students that are very much based on applied teaching, where the connection with the companies already in the training phase is very strong, where we try to integrate activities of thesis but also project in the day life of companies, so to provide already at the beginning of their stages, working stages, to students the understanding of which is the world, the manufacturing world, and how they can become fastly effective on that. This, of course, has also an impact on the long life learning, as
let's say, a strict connection with the innovation ecosystem, let us to address the needs of the companies and anticipate the markets. So basically, we are able to provide trainings and support from training side, let's say, to the companies, in both in the offline learning and in the part of research. Eventually, as I anticipated before, we try to work globally, but then focusing on our ecosystem. So the carrying on of activities at European level, where we can broaden expertise in big consortia, is then taken down to our testing ecosystem, where we then use this knowledge to go more and more inside the companies and provide the companies with more specific expertise developed with, let's say, a European also approach. So this was the final message that I would like to give to you. So basically, the importance in a university and industry approach of cooperation, of building the activities inside the innovation ecosystem, relying on people, relying on the creation of pathways that goes from the training of the people to the research activities inside the companies. And is on this topic that I would like to leave the word to Simone Degli Abbati, that has been one of our bachelor students, and he will speak about that. But this is now integrated in a company that is following a transformation pathway, very important, that has a strict connection with our activities of research. And this connection can be, let's say, constructed only with a strong relation with people, with a strong relation with the territory, and doing the things together. So please, thank you very much. I will leave the word to Simone.
Thank you very much, Professor Barney from Switzerland, SUPSI. And now we have next speaker, Mr. Dr. Simone Degli Abbati. Welcome, Dr. Degli Abbati. A lei.
Thank you, Andrea, for the introduction. I'm very glad today to give my contribution to this topic and my effort to speak about this relationship of the SUPSI with the territory, with the Ticino territory. And for do this, I do a very quick introduction of myself. I'm Simone Degli Abbati. I'm 26, and I start and I got my accounting high school in Italy, in Varese, in 2014, and in the same year I started the bachelor route in SUPSI, at SUPSI in Switzerland, near Lugano. And I got the bachelor degree in 2018 in engineering and management. During this bachelor, SUPSI gave to me some beautiful and great opportunities, like the exchange in the 2018 for the first semester in an exchange in Madrid at the Universitat Pontificia Comillas. And then the other very great opportunity was the thesis in the company. I made a thesis concerning the ISO 9001 for the recertification on the version of the 2015. And with this opportunity, thanks this opportunity, I started my job, my work career in the same company where I had the thesis, the diploma project. And now I'm working at Veragouth and Xylema, is very close to subsidy department. And in this company, I'm the quality manager and also the innovation project manager. And I want to introduce my company. Next slide, please. The company, as I said, is Veragouth and Xylema, is based on Bedano. Next slide, please. And is a small and medium industry with almost 80 employees, where we have also technicians, wood technicians, and engineering, wood engineering. And we are specialized in wooden products manufacturing. We have we operate in 3 market sectors. The first one is the custom furniture production. We design and produce furnitures. And then the other sector is the trade of doors and windows. Almost of these doors and windows are produced in the internal Switzerland. And the last sector is the produce of custom wooden frame houses. And it's very interesting about the company where I work, when the 3 sectors work together to offer to the customer the turnkey solution, the turnkey house solution, where we create an house with the furniture and also the doors and windows of all the sectors of all the company. And we are, thanks to our quality, flexibility, and high technology level, we are a point reference in the Ticino market. And this is a very quick introduction of the company where I work. And with the next slide, I want to give my effort about the topic of today. That is the very strong relationship with the subsidy. And the goal of the relationship is to bring the company to the factory of the future. And with several innovation projects, we try to bring the Veragouth and Xylema in the factory of the future. And I wrote with this slide 2 examples. These 2 projects are current projects that I'm managing with daily. I'm managing with Andrea and the Department of Innovation Technology.
Dottor Degli, Abbati, siamo un po' fuori timetable. We are out of our timetable. I will ask you to conclude your presentation, please.
Yeah. Okay, I have finished with the introduction, a very quick introduction of these projects. One is an European project where we hope to get a new market. And the other project is the Smart Twin, where we are creating a simulation tool, a twin of the furniture production, to understand the production system, and to improve and give support to the production manager to schedule the production. And nothing. This is my conclusion. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you for your contribution, Dr. Simone Degli Abbati. with our next two speakers, final speakers, we will go back to the issue that Professor Tarabini mentioned before, the crucial importance of the students for the process of the technology transfer with SMEs. First speaker is Mr. Nicola Doppio. Buongiorno.
Buongiorno, good morning everyone. My name is Nicola Doppio. I work at Hub Innovazione Trentino, HIT. We are a tech transfer foundation that was launched 5 years ago by the University of Trento and the research foundations that we have in Trentino, Fondazione Kotlar, Fondazione Mach, and Trentino Sviluppo, which is the in-house development company of the autonomous province of Trento. I'm going to speak about how you can use open innovation contests to make it small and medium enterprises to engage with researchers in general from the university or from research. Thanks a lot for the invitation. I'm very glad to be part of this panel today. Next slide, please. So a few information about Hub Innovazione Trentino. We are organized in 3 areas, innovation and tech transfer, startup and acceleration, and innovation ecosystem. Those that you can see on the below part of the slide are the KPIs of the tech transfer, innovation and tech transfer area. Not only we deal with patents from the university and from the researchers trying to push them towards the market, but we also try to establish connections with companies and impact on companies. And in order to do that, we wanted to have tools, new instruments to make sure that we could really transfer not only technologies, but also know-how towards the companies, but starting from, again, the needs from the companies. Next slide, please. And again, not only technology push, but really we started investigating on how to make it possible to understand the needs and expectations from companies, especially small and medium enterprises, and allow them to engage in open innovations with researchers, but also break down those barriers, very well pointed out by Professor Tarabini, and not only him, when it comes to connecting, companies, SMEs with research, and then looking into the tool of innovation contests. Next slide, please. So what are innovation contests? Well, open innovation contests have been utilizing for centuries, actually, to make it possible to solve large societal level challenges, most of the time involving high-tech, technologies, by means of engaging with potential so-called solvers, which could be like scientists or companies, from all over the world. The first open innovation contest was actually launched, 300 years ago to make it possible to calculate the longitude appropriately. But the longitude prize is still there, and now it serves to solve different types of challenges. So what we did was to take the concept and the model of open innovation contest and prize and scale it down to our regional level in a way that we could use it to solve industrial problems from our SMEs. Next slide, please. So one example of open innovation contest that we have in Trentino, we have many, it's the Proto Challenge, probably the most relevant for the topic. The Proto Challenge is a contest that allow small and medium enterprises, but also large enterprises if they need so, to make it possible to understand how to make use of additive manufacturing technologies. So how does it work? Every year we select 4 to 5 companies, each them with teams of students and researchers, and during a period that might be like 2 or 3 months, these teams of students perform analysis and redesign of the mechanical elements in a way that these elements can benefit the most from additive manufacturing. Normally students use some type of software. We change the software provider every year, and thanks to that software they can perform, for instance, topology optimization. And the output of the initiative is the model that is provided to the company. And here below, you can see the companies that were selected every year starting from 2018. Of course, it's an initiative that we carry out in strong collaboration, not only with the University of Trento, but also with other actors in our innovation ecosystems. Next slide, please. And indeed, the main actor that we involved in the Proto Challenge, and is actually the reason why, one of the reasons why we decided to launch this initiative, is the ProM facility. It's a facility that involves state-of-the-art additive manufacturing machinery that are open to companies, and companies can go to the ProM facility to get support and innovation services to, make the best of these newly launched technologies. So the Proto Challenge is a way for us to engage with companies, to break down the barriers that they have in engaging with researchers, because there are researchers working at the ProM facility as well, and to make it possible for them to understand how to make use of additive manufacturing. Next slide, please.
Mr. Doppio, I will sadly ask you to conclude your presentation, please. Then we can have the chance to give the word to Mr. Paolo Gregori. We are really very strict with the timetable.
We can go to the next slide directly. Okay, next slide again, please. Okay, so now applications to the Proto Challenge are open, and companies can subscribe to take part in the Proto Challenge. Not only we select companies from Trentino, but also from beyond. So you have time until 27th of November if you are a company and seeks to know how to make the best use of additive manufacturing by taking part in the Proto Challenge. Next and last slide, please. I also have a call to action for universities and for innovation intermediaries overall. You can also get engaged in open innovation contests. You don't need to be an expert. We were not an expert in this field. We started delving into other experiences, and we ended up designing a guide within a Horizons 2020 project 2 years ago. And the guide developed a canvas that you can use to identify which are the main building blocks of an innovation contest. And you can use it to ideate and design your own innovation contest. It might be in another industry, or it might have the scope of exploiting other types of technologies well beyond additive manufacturing. That is feasible, and you have a tool to start with. Please feel free to go to the project website that you can see in this slide and download the guide. I have just my next slide to thank you for your attention, and I will give the floor to Paolo Gregori from Facility. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Doppio. And we have last speaker here, Paolo Gregori. Mr. Gregori, welcome. I will ask you kindly to conclude your presentation in 4 minutes as scheduled previously. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay. So just a few minutes, so I know that we are late, but I'm very strictly connected with the previous talk of my friend Nicola. So I wanted just to show you some example of what we did here in our facility. As you can see, I'm in the lab, and we are here in our facility. It is a sort of infrastructure that provides services for startups and small medium enterprises in order to shrink the gap between applied research and products. So we are here, we have a number of different technologies and machineries with a strong focus on additive manufacturing. And for us, the Proto Challenge was a very interesting opportunity to put in contact directly groups of students and companies in order to have a very challenging activity together in order to redesign standard products with the new technologies and with new software for design for additive. And in this case, for example, I have here some examples of what we did during this proto challenge, where standard shapes were completely renewed by this software and by 3D printing. So in one case, for example, we had what Nicola showed before. So this is a rocket, and we started to redesign completely and to have a very strong and considerable weight reduction of more than 80%, with the same stiffness of the original component. So this was a concrete example of what we can do in a prototyping facility with a TRL high from 7 to 9, so from prototype to product. And here, so we can provide services to companies, but also in a new model, a triple helix model, where companies, education, and research can work together, hands-on on machineries. I can conclude here. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you also for the very interesting roundtable.
Thank you, Mr. Gregori. Thank you all for being with us, sharing with us your experience. Thank you very much.